Aloha folks, and welcome to today's video. Today is May 31st, 2022, and yesterday we had our new moon in Gemini. So new moon, we're starting a new cycle for the next 6 months until our full moon in Gemini, where in this sequence, we're really going to be working on skills. We need to have a lot of skills so we can be versatile. That way we can master whatever it is we need to do in the world. And this cycle is really the tone is being set by a particular configuration between the North Node, which is conjunct Mercury, which is trine Pluto, and there's a sextile between those two with Neptune, which approximately puts Neptune as somewhat of a midpoint between Pluto and Mercury with the North Node. So what does all this mean? Well, Pluto and Mercury are creating this really intense feeling of all of us individually noticing how our individual styles and ways of expressing ourselves are limiting us. Think about how when we have a conversation with someone and we describe a situation, we can only describe it so well. The other person can't see what we saw through our eyes. They can only grasp that which we've actually communicated to them. So there are limits to speech, and it can cause a lot of headbutting and contention because there's misunderstanding. And of course, what that can lead to is more complexity, because then we try to defend ourselves, or we try to negotiate, or we try to explain ourselves. And it just makes stories and conversations more confusing. So what we really need to do is tap into Neptune. Neptune will help bring the magic forward so that we can move forward into realms of simplicity. We need to really be compassionate when we're not grasping what the other person is saying. We need to be open to recognizing that we're only human, our speech is limited, and that we may need to adjust. And if we need to adjust our speech, we need to come from a place that is honoring our personal style rather than defending our personal style, because there's nothing to defend. It's just a misunderstanding. We're just human. So our limits can really feel intense, and it can be an obsession to try to clearly communicate yourself fully and correctly the first time. But we need to go through this trial and error process, because what we also need to do is we really need to see people. We need to see people for what we are. We're just human. And we need to have compassion for each other. We need to recognize that we're all struggling in our own little ways, that we've all had trauma, that we're all wounded. That's what it means to be human at this time in history. And if we can continue our work, we can get to the quintessence of what we are. We're just like little children. We want the little children to be able to read and write eventually, but we need them to be able to babble. We need them to be able to grab the crayon by their full fist and scribble dark, meandering lines all over the place. And that will give them the opportunity to eventually develop the fine motor skills that they need in order to write and walk eloquently. So just know that when we look at our limits are designed to help us be realistic. Yes, I'm limited to being a human being, but what that means is I no longer have the responsibility or the need or the care to worry about what it means to be a bird. I don't need to know how to flap my wings in order to fly. Because I'm limited as a human being, There's less responsibility. I don't need to know what it's like to be a worm and to have to worry about birds pecking me from the grass. I'm limited to being a human being, which means I'm unlimited in the sense of what can I do as a human being? So it helps me to be realistic. And that's why we need to have humanity, because each person is struggling with their own sense of being and trying to express themselves. And most people are still worried about all these other things and not allowing themselves to be grounded by their limits, grounded in the sense of, such as this computer, not grounded in the sense of a bird that's supposed to fly, suddenly it's grounded, but grounded in the sense of this computer, where it's not short circuiting, where there's not excess electricity that it can't handle going through. So let's just have compassion with each other, because we're all just trying to master this instrument that we've each been given. And let's have that childlike curiosity to explore and to share what we learn. Thanks.